Welcome back to Nonsense FM. Did you know that there is an absolute astronomical amount of pride flags? I found this out the other day. Like, I knew that there was like different ones for different parts of like the LGBTQ plus community. There's so many fucking flags though, and I think it's pretty cool that there's like a flag for everything. There's a flag for every gender, every sexual orientation. Like there's a flag specifically for people who like are only attracted to somebody if that person is attracted to them first. Which, you know, if that's how you feel, like good for you. But the fact that like there's just so many flags. There's a flag for everything. There's a straight ally flag, which I thought was pretty cool. And it's honestly one of like it's such a cool flag. It's like black and white, and then there's like a rainbow A in the middle for ally. I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, because here's the thing. Let's be real. I'm not trying to shit on anybody's sexual orientation or gender or anything like that. Some of the flags need some work, right? There's some flags that are cooler than others. Maybe it's just the color schemes. There's some flags that need some work. There's some flags that are cooler than others. Not going to name any of them in particular. But I really wish we would kind of do like what they've done for more things. Like, I want flags for more shit, like for all different kinds of communities and stuff like that. Because like the flags are kind of cool. Like they're pretty simplistic for the most part. It's just really cool colors. Like I feel like if we combined that with like other shit, we'd have some like really cool like fucking flags and stuff. Like I want to put like it doesn't even have to be like an actual flag, but it's like a symbol or whatever that you can put on stuff. I think that'd be really cool. Like for all different kinds of like communities and like other stuff. Like I want I want a flag like for driving a Jeep. Like if you drive a Jeep, I want a flag. Like I feel like Jeep people would fuck with the flag. And like I know what people are gonna say. It's like, oh, you have like the Jeep logo, or you got like the little hand with like the fingers that do the wave. No, I want a fucking flag, bro. Like I want a cool ass flag with some cool colors. I think Jeep people need a flag. Also, could you imagine if Jeep people and the LGBTQ plus community got together and did a collab? Like, could you imagine Jeep Pride and actual Pride coming together and just having like a fucking parade or some shit? like, like just down like the streets of Austin or somewhere. Like, just jacked up fucking Jeeps with like big ass mud tires and fucking subs and tweeters in the back, and then just fucking rainbow flags just sitting there billowing in the wind behind it. Like that's like I'm sure there's people that do that already, but I feel like Jeep people, like as much as people love fucking Jeep. I drive a Jeep, all right, and we are some pretentious fucking assholes sometimes. Like there's some people who make driving a Jeep their entire personality. And like, you know what, good for you. But like the amount of pride that Jeep people have and the amount of pride that gay people have, I think you bring that together, like you could start your own fucking country with that amount of just like for lack of a better word, like patriotism. Not patriotism, but just like fucking pride in something. You could fucking collapse governments with that amount of just raw energy of Jeep pride and pride coming together. And the flags would be cool too, because like, you know, you got like the awesome color schemes, and then just like Jeep people be do like Jeep people got the money for it, right? So like Jeep people can just fund it because they got enough money that they're fucking spending on their tires and everything. So, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, with pride, with like gay people. Can we just also, as like a human society, recognize that gay people exist? And I know that sounds dumb to say out loud, but like they're here if you didn't know. Like they're like I know most people like realize they're here and whether they like want them to or not. Like they're not going anywhere. Like I don't want to get like political or anything. Like it's definitely not what I want this to turn into is something political. But like gay people exist and like you're not gonna you're not gonna get rid of them. Now, what brings this up is that I've had an interesting past couple of days at work. So I had a group, a couple, come in, and to put this into perspective, I live in a very small town, in the southern half of the country, the United States. Um, a very small town, and there was this couple that came in, and the woman was visiting, and the man was not from the area, but he lives in the area. And he was like asking me because I've lived here pretty much my whole life. He's like, "What do you like to do? What do you like to go eat? What do you like to do around here?" And I was like, "Well, I enjoy this place. They've got good pizza. I enjoy this place. They've got this." And he's like, "Is there anywhere where I can find like, is there any like bars or anything like open, like cool bars?" And I was like, "Man, I'm trying to think. This is like middle of the week. This is on like a Wednesday." I was like, "Man, what the fuck is open?" So I'm thinking, I was like, "Man, like Business X." I'm not gonna say their name, but I was like, "Business X is open." And he goes, "I don't support Business X." And I immediately knew what it was. So basically, a couple of weeks ago, prior to me recording, it's about a month ago before recording this, Business X did a drag brunch, right? So they brought in like 3 or 4 drag queens, and they did brunch on like a Saturday or a Sunday, something like that. So they brought in the drag queens. They did brunch. They did all this. It was like a ticketed event, and like people lost their fucking minds over this shit, right? First of all, it was in a bar that typically doesn't even allow anyone under the age of 21 into. This is a ticketed event, so it was not open to the public. You had to have a ticket to get in. And people lost their fucking shit over this drag brunch, right? So there's people that were like calling, emailing, even like handwriting letters and sending them to like the city council, or city hall, the police department. There was people that were sending handwritten letters to the state representative for this area, because the state rep for this area is from this town. So they were sending, I think she's a state rep. So they were sending her handwritten letters, and all these letters to the city council and hall and like the police department. All that, they were all like, "How could you allow this? How could you allow this in our town? Like this?" And I was like, and people were like losing their fucking minds. Myself and like a bunch of people I worked with, and like everybody else that I really knew and talked to, were like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like there's people that are this upset that there is a privately owned business is holding a by ticket only event within the confines of their business, within their 4 walls. They are holding a private ticketed event, not open to the public, and people are losing their fucking mind. That was all prior to the show. The day of the show, there's protests in the street. There's fucking preachers and pastors and everything out there, like up on their soapboxes, raising hell. Is that blasphemous to say? I don't know. But protesting everything. They had to bring in police officers. They had to bring in extra security, like to block off the entire street and all this stuff. And people were losing their fucking minds over this. So this guy tells me, he goes, "I don't support Business X because I don't support any business that does drag brunch." And like here's the thing that bothered me about it is that I've heard people get upset about this, right? I've heard, I know, though I'm not happy to know them, but I do know somebody who was one of those people. This is an older woman that I know through mutual connections. She was one of those people that was writing the handwritten letters and shit, right? So I know people, I've heard them talk about this, but to have somebody sit there and say it to my face, and he said it with like such malice, right? Like there was some feeling in his voice, and it kind of got me thinking. And now I say all this like I know not all drag queens are gay, right? But I think like once we kind of need to start understanding that there are people out there who live a different lifestyle than you may live, right? Today I saw a clip on the internet of this transgender. I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong, but I believe they were a man that transitioned, a male that transitioned to a female, right? And so they were talking about how they were raised in a Christian home. They still believed in God. They still worshipped God, and they still believed in Christianity. They just think that they were born in the wrong body, so they went through transition. And so they hear, Christians talking about how, they're an abomination or whatever else, like all these like super hateful things. And so I read the comments on these posts, and they're like, you're not religious. You don't believe in the same God that I believe in. You don't worship the same God. You don't believe in the same... And I'm like, can we just fucking stop for a minute? Can we honestly just take a step back and realize that there are people out there who believe other things, live different lifestyles than maybe you do. They're sitting there talking about how, like, this is not my form of Christianity. You don't worship the same God that I do. Y'all realize there's other religions, right? And, like, so this person was specifically talking about Christianity, but, like, let's just start with that, right? You know there's other religions, right? You understand that there are people out there who worship different gods, who believe in different things. So, like, okay, we can establish that, right? Like, you can wrap your head around that part, at least, that there's people who worship other things that have different beliefs and stuff like that. So why can you not wrap your head around the fact that somebody would go through transition, right? And, like, I've heard so many different sides of the argument. Like, before I get into, like, transgender and stuff like that, let's just talk about, like, gay and the LGBTQ community as a whole, right? Like, what the fuck does it matter to you, right? Like, what the fuck does it matter to you who this other person... And, like, I'm saying all of this, right? Like, I'm going to interject here myself. Like, I'm saying all of this as a cis-gendered, straight, white male, right? So I'm, like, nowhere near qualified to speak on this. But for fuck's sake, like, it really irritates the fuck out of me, right? When I hear people talking like this, and especially when I hear people talking about people that I care about, people that I know. For instance, my younger brother is gay, right? We both grew up in the same small town. We went to the same school. We, we knew all of the same people. And we grew up in this, like I said, grew up in the same small town. And when my brother comes home from work, when he's 16 years old working at a restaurant, he comes home from work and he tells me that he went up to a table and said, "Hey, my name is blank. Can I get you started with something?" The woman that's sitting at the table looks at him, stands up, walks over to the front counter, like the hostess stand basically, or checkout, whatever it was, like the nearest other individual that worked there, and goes, "Excuse me, can somebody else come take care of us? I don't want that F word," and I don't mean fuck, the F word that I'm not allowed to say. "I don't want that waiting on us." With a straight face, goes and sits back down at her table. Now, kudos to my brother because he handled it like a fucking champ. He was like, "All right," and he just walked off and, like, didn't really let it bother him too much. I'm sure that it bothered him a little bit, but he at least didn't show it and didn't, like, indulge in it, didn't engage in it. It didn't, like, let it kind of fester with him, at least not that he let me to believe, right? So the fact that there's people who cannot wrap their head around the fact that there are people who are gay or who are homosexual in any capacity, or who are transgender, or who enjoy doing drag or anything like that. The fact that people can't wrap their head around this is so fucking insane to me. But back to what I was saying about the clip that I saw of the transgender. I believe they were a male that transitioned into a female, so I'm gonna call her her. And the fact that like the comments that I was reading is like, you don't believe the same God as me, right? So let's look at this. Like I think we can all agree there's people who worship other gods, people that believe in other religions, even the most hardcore of Christians that I know can admit, and I'm using Christianity as an example because that's what I know, right? That's what I grew up on. That's the religion that I know. I didn't grow up. I don't really know personally a whole, like, or at least in depth, anybody who is Hindu or Buddhist or any other, really even Jewish. Like I grew up around all fucking Christians, right? So that's the example that I use for this. I'm sure there's other religions out there that believe the same thing, right? But to them, I say that I'll say the same thing, right? So we can all agree, like, okay, there's other people out there who believe different things. Let's start with religion, right? We can all agree, I think, that no matter how much of a Christian you are, or how much you believe in the one and only true God that you believe in, I think we can all recognize that there's people out there who believe differently, right? You might not agree with it. You might not like it. You might think that everybody should be Christian. But I think you can at least wrap your brain around that, like, all right, that guy over there could be Hindu, could be Buddhist. I might not agree with what their beliefs are, which really, let's be honest here, like, if we really kind of take a look at, there's some exceptions. There's some exceptions. But if we really look at a lot of, like, the religions, they kind of all say very similar things. At least from what I've seen. I could be completely fucking wrong. But from what I've seen, like, pretty much everything basically, like, in general, right? Like I said, there's exceptions. There's more specific parts of each one. But for the most part, pretty much everything just says, don't be a dick. Right? Like, that's kind of the general message of everything. It's just, don't be a fucking dick. So I think if we can all do that, right? Like, if we can just all not be self-centered assholes, I think we're all okay. Like, I think we can all get along. Because from what I know about Christianity and from what little I know about other religions, that's kind of just the general idea. Is just don't be a fucking dick. Just try to get along with everybody. Don't be an asshole. Try to be nice. You know? Just try to get along. That's the basic fundamentals for me, at least. That's how I understand it. So if we can all agree, all right, there's other religions out there. Might not agree with all of it, but the general idea is don't be a dick. All right, I'm Christian, for instance. This is an example. I'm Christian, but I can at least recognize that there's Hinduism, there's Buddhism, there's Judaism, there's all these other things, right? All right, so cool. So why can we do that, but we can't with other things, right? Or even there's some people who can't do that. So why the fuck can't you do that, right? Very, very dear friend of mine is vegan, right? I am not vegan. I didn't grow up vegan. Grew up quite the opposite, actually. I grew up hunting for not majority, but a portion of what we ate on a day-to-day basis was animals that we had hunted. And I say that to say, like, I wasn't just hunting for sport and, like, we just, like, killed it and left it. Like, we actually ate what we killed. Which I see as, like, even with, like, stuff that you get from the store, like, I might not actively think about it all the time, but Native Americans and a lot of others, from at least from my understanding, Native Americans, a lot of other, like, cultures and everything else, like, saw the eating of an animal as their sacrifice to your nourishment and stuff like that, which I think is really cool, right? It's like, I'm not just out there just, like, killing shit just to kill shit, right? We actually used and ate what we killed. And that's how I grew up, right? I still like I'm a big protein boy, right? Like I gotta have my protein, red meat, your chicken, all this stuff. Like I enjoy it. I think it tastes great. I feel as if it brings me a lot of nourishment. Um, so yeah, I'm big into the protein, big into meat, right? Big into the meat. A dear friend of mine is not vegan, not only because of her not wanting to hurt animals, she just doesn't agree with, also for dietary reasons as well. So I don't sit there and be like, why the fuck can't you eat meat? Like, why? I'm not going to be friends with you because you don't eat meat. You don't eat meat? How could you not sit there and eat? How could you live your life not eating meat? Right? Like, it's kind of fucking stupid when you really think about it, right? Like, let's take the same argument that guy had, right? Let's say that place of business X that this gentleman was talking about, had vegan options, right? Or hey, what if they did a vegan brunch, right? They offered vegan options for brunch. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't even know if I don't know if you could do that or not. I feel like you could. Say they offered vegan brunch, right? You don't have to go, right? They are advertising it ahead of time. This is what we're doing on this day from this time, vegan brunch. This is what we're gonna have on the menu. And if that guy came to me and goes, I don't go to business X. I don't support any business that does vegan brunch. Can we apply the same logic? Now I know what his logic was coming from. It was they had mentioned church a couple of times prior in the conversation, and so I'm assuming that his argument for the drag brunch was something to do with religion. But let's just take a look at that and just see how like fucking ridiculous that sounds, right? Like, I don't support a business that's vegan brunch, right? They have a fucking like a dog shelter, like adoption day, right? Doggy adoption day. I don't support any business that adopts out puppies. I'm a cat person. Like, what the fuck is the fucking issue, man? That's what I'm trying to say. And here I am on my soapbox, fucking ranting and just going on. But like, it just rubbed me the wrong fucking way, and it always has. I don't know if I can say that it always has, but it has for a while now. Like, seeing it within the town that I live in and seeing it on the internet, like that clip of the woman, the fucking comments that people were saying are like this person is openly admitting and saying that that's the biggest argument that I see, right? It's like, oh, God doesn't allow it. The Bible doesn't allow it. This is not Christian. The person is sitting there saying that they grew up as Christian, they still actively worship God, they go to church, they believe in the Bible. They're doing all of the things right in your book. But the fact that they're transgender, you're alienating them, saying hateful things about them, and all this shit, right? And I just don't get it. I really just don't get it. And I wonder almost if, because I grew up in the early 2000s, right? Like, when I grew up, when something just wasn't like cool, or when something was like, I don't know, what we thought was like dumb or stupid, right? That was gay, right? I didn't really know anybody in the early 2000s who was like openly gay, right? So like, you die in like a video game that you're playing with your buddies, like, oh, that's fucking gay, right? Like, I'm not saying it was right, but that's just what we did, right? Like, it didn't mean anything by it. It's kind of like with the R word. Speaking of which, I saw that clip where that guy was sitting there talking about, he said, he's talking about the hard R, and he's like, yeah, the hard R, and the other guy's like, what? He's like, the hard R, like the hard R, like so-and-so said hard R, and he's like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, like he said like hard R, like live on TV, and the guy was like, he said the N-word, and the guy's like, what? God, no, what? Why would he say, no, what? What do you, and he's like, what are you talking about hard R? And he's like, like mentally disabled. He's like, Daddy's like, no, that's not what hard R means. He's like, hard R is like used for the N word, like when you put the R at the end. And I swear to God, the guy about shit his pants when he like came to it. He's like, what the fuck? But speaking of the R word, not hard R, the R word, right? That was another thing that like. That's what people said. Like kids, like me, my buddies, and everything. Like, oh, this is fucking that, right? And it was never intended. I would never even dream of saying that to somebody who had like a mental disability, right? Because that's just it's not okay. Like it's just not right. Like I didn't subscribe to that philosophy or that ideology that like that's not what that means, right? Like that person may have a mental disability, or as we called it back then, like they might be mentally challenged, right? Like that's what that means. The R word, that's not what that meant. Like the R word was just something that was stupid that you didn't agree with, or like something that was just like it sounds cliche as fuck, but that Office episode where Michael's like, you wouldn't call somebody that, and, you call your friends that when they're being stupid, right? Like that's what it is. That's how I grew up. That's how all my friends grew up, and so that's one of the things. Like we said, we could like never be streamers or anything like that because we just say like that's fucking gay or that's fucking this. So we can never be Twitch streamers, but yeah, like that's just how it was. And maybe that's the same thing with all these other folks, right? Maybe they just like they grew up like that, where being gay just wasn't a thing, right? Being trans for sure wasn't a thing. It may have been a thing. It just wasn't as prominent or as known about until recently, I feel like. And maybe that's the same thing with gay too. Maybe that's like what everybody's like freaking out about, because they're like, being gay is supposed to be like some like secretive taboo thing. Like, oh, you can't be gay. First of all, half the people that sit there and complain about gay, they're fucking gay, right? Like they won't admit it, but you put a dick in their face, they gonna suck it, right? Like you get them hot and bothered enough, they gonna be slurping some meat, right? I'm comfortable enough. I can confidently say that I'm comfortable enough in my own sexuality that I can sit there and be around people who are gay, actively interact with people who are gay on a day-to-day basis. I can look at another man and be like, that dude's fucking good looking. Damn, like he's like jawline on point, his haircut's good. It's a fucking good looking dude. Doesn't mean I want to fuck him, right? Like, I'm straight. I like women. I know that I've even had that mental conversation with myself. Like, could you be gay? Like, or bi? Like, do you think, like, I haven't tried it, but, like, you sit there and, like, I've thought about it. I'm comfortable enough with myself that I can do that, where I've thought about it, but, like, I wonder. And I'm like, no, like, even the thought of it just isn't appealing to me, right? But I can be around gay people. I can be around people who are homosexual, part of the LGBTQ community. I can be around them. It doesn't bother me. And guess what? That's the same for everybody else. Like, for all the fucking people out there who like, yo, you're gay, bro. Get away from me, bro. Like, I don't want you over here. Like, you're gay. I don't want that. Like, with people who are like, you can be gay, just don't be gay around me. Like, what the fuck do you think that this is? Like, it's not COVID, right? It's not going to just spread through the air. It's not corona. You're not just going to get it because they're close to you. It's not the flu, all right? You can be in close proximity to somebody who's gay and be totally fine. I promise you. But I feel like being gay has become like this, like it, and it's definitely become more common around like in the recent years, right? Like it's become more well known. It's become more openly acceptable, and more people are like coming out as gay, or more people are saying that they're bisexual, or more people saying that they're lesbian, or they're like blah blah blah, whatever, right? And I'm starting to wonder, right? Like there's two theories for me, right? One theory is that like were all of these people gay, bisexual, lesbian, however, were all of these people that are now openly coming out? Because right, like I think we can all see like there's been in the recent years there's been like an influx, like all of a sudden a exponential increase in people who identify as gay, bisexual, lesbian, whatever, right? So my question is like, all of these people, have they been hiding? Have they been in the closet, right? Have they been secretive about it? And now finally they're able to come out and be themselves? Or is this just all of a sudden an exponential increase in people sucking dick, right? Like, is it just all of a sudden way more dick sucking than there was, right? And I'm not like, I'm sure like people always been sucking dick, right? Or eating coochie, whatever. But like, is it just all of a sudden people are like, oh, I can be myself now? Like, I can finally come out, and I have a community that supports me. I have people that support me. I have these allies, these people that are backing me up. Or people like, yo, it's cool to suck dick now, so like I can just suck dick and like I won't get beat up. Like, all right, I guess I can try being gay for a little bit. Like, I don't like, it's like, chicken or the egg. Like, which came first? Like, was there always this many gay people, or is it like now that it's cool or now that it's acceptable, people are like, I'll give it a shot. Like, I'll try taking one up the butt one time. Um, it's probably so fucking offensive. Like, people are gonna get so upset, but I think it's funny. I think it's true. Like, I think especially for like somebody who grew up where like that wasn't like, it wasn't acceptable, right? Like, I grew up like gay wasn't a thing, right? Like, gay, to be gay was wrong. Like, that's how I grew up. Like, that's just what I grew up around, right? To be gay was unacceptable. This is how I kind of, not cope, because cope's not the right word, but this is definitely like how I kind of play with it in my head, right? Like, yeah, there's a whole lot more like less offensive PC ways to say things, but at the end of the day, like, the thought that crosses through my head is exactly that. Like, was there always this many gay people, or is it just all of a sudden cool to suck dick, right? And maybe it's both, maybe it's neither, maybe I'm missing the fucking point. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like, I'm here for it. Like, not like I'm here for it. I'm here like as a supporter. Like I said, I don't think I'd like making out with a dude. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I would. You never know. I'm not gonna sit here and say like that's homophobic, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say like I wouldn't enjoy. Maybe I would. Fuck if I know. But I'm pretty sure my significant other would be upset if I went around kissing dudes. Not because she's homophobic, but she's just a little jealous sometimes, and that's okay. I love her. I had something else that I wanted to talk about. I don't remember what it is. But basically, that was kind of my thought over the past couple days. Oh, and I completely forgot the other half of that day. The day where the motherfucker comes in, he's talking about, I don't support a business that does drag brand. Yeah, I'm secretly gay. Yeah, that same motherfucker, right? That same fucking day. I forgot about this. That same day, right after these motherfuckers leave, I go upstairs at my work. My work's got like 2 stories, right? I go upstairs. And there is this older lesbian interracial couple sitting at one of the tables. First of all, fucking queens. Let me just say that, right? Like, usually when I say, like, when I think queen, I think like OG gays, right? Like the old school gay dudes, those are fucking queens, right? Those are the old queens the OGs represent, right? Nah, these bitches were queens, all right? First, fucking slay, right? That's what the kids say, right? Slay. To be an older, and when I say older, I mean like older than myself, by a good amount. These ladies had to be, I'd estimate, late 50s, even in their 60s, right? They looked great, but I could tell they were older, right? And an interracial couple. I would assume she was either white or she was light skinned, something. But for simplicity's sake, we're gonna say it was a white lady and a black lady, right? African American lady. And the reason I know that they were lesbian, I found out later. I confirmed it, but like they had the old school, like they came in together. They were obviously a couple. Like you just kind of feel that energy, and they had the old school lesbian haircuts. Right, black lady has shaved head with like just barely any hair. The other lady had like the chopped off hair. Right, it was like the old school lesbian haircuts. Right, like this the standard lesbian haircuts. I feel like when they go to the beauty shop, it's just like I want the lesbian haircut, and they just do that. Right, it's like it's just that haircut, and they just like I said, they acted like a couple, like you just knew. So I go upstairs and I'm talking to them. I'm chatting them up a little bit. Like they're super nice and they are both funny as fuck. This black lady has me damn near in tears just cracking jokes. She's hilarious. And I was like, ladies, can I get y'all anything else at the moment? And she says, do you have any chocolate? The black lady, she goes, do you have any chocolate in there? She goes, I'm feeling like something sweet. Like that would just really like bring everything together for me. Just really tie everything together. And I was like, I'm not sure. Let me go and check and see if I have anything. I said, if I do you have a preference on the chocolate? Do you put like milk chocolate, caramel, dark chocolate? I say dark chocolate. And the white lady holds her palm out and points at the black lady and goes, what do you think? I about fucking fell over laughing, bro. She fucking points at her significant other and was like, duh, dark chocolate, motherfucker. Like, she says, what do you think? I fucking lost it, bro. That was easily one of the funniest fucking things that a customer has ever said to me before. She looked me dead in the face and was like, what do you think? And I had to tell him, I was like, I'm sorry, like that took me off guard. Like I was not expecting that. That was funny as shit. And I loved it because I had just had that experience with the other guy. And then I go upstairs and I see this, right? Like I said, an older lesbian interracial couple, which is fucking unheard of, right? To be an older gay couple of any kind, same-sex couple of any kind, right? Very rare. But to be an older interracial same-sex couple, fucking insane. It still like baffles me, not because I think of anything wrong with it, but just because I know what I grew up around, right? I know the world that like my parents grew up in. I know the world that I grew up in that I don't agree with, right? Like I know what I grew up around. When I see an older interracial couple, I'm still like, man, fucking good for you, bro. Like, hell yes. To be in, like, because I can only imagine what they had to go through as a if they're like a long standing couple. If it's like if they're a new couple, like yeah, you sure still have to go through a lot. But if you're like been together for a while, older interracial couple, it's fucking wild to me because like I said, not that there's anything wrong with it or that I'm like, oh my god, it's fucking black guy dating a white woman. No, like it's not what it is. Like it's just I know the world that I grew up in, right? I know what people used to say back in the day. Like I go to like the little local gas station after school and go get like a soda or something, and I sit there and hear these old fucking white dudes sitting there talking about. I heard how they talked about people, right? People of all skin colors, all backgrounds, everything. I hear how they talk about people. So to be an older interracial couple fucking blows my mind because I don't know. I can only imagine what they had to have gone through as far as like familial, like for lack of a better word, like persecution maybe. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but just like the turmoil of what family members thought, what friends thought, what people around them thought. And it's fucked up that people thought that way, but like I I'm a realist in this world, right? Like I know it's fucked up, but I know it had to have happened. And I can't wrap around it because here's the thing, like I know in this day and age, right? Like what my brother goes through. Again, I don't know, but he tells me as a gay individual. So I know what he tells me he goes through. I have friends of all different kind of skin colors and races and everything else that tell me some of the stuff that they go through or some of the stuff that they've seen to be like an older that grew up, and I'm talking older like 60s and 70s and stuff like that, to be a long-term standing interracial couple is fucking wild to me. Because again, I know the world that I know what this world is. I've seen it. I've seen how fucked up it can be. But to my point, to be an older interracial lesbian couple, I don't know how long they had been together. I don't know if they were like together, if it's just like, look, we're both old, we're both older, let's just fuck around and be happy. That may have been the case. But an openly interracial lesbian couple, fucking wild to me. And I loved it. And like I said, they were two of my favorite customers. I only talked to them for a few minutes just because they weren't my customers per se. I was just checking on them, but they were fucking great. I loved talking with them. They had me dying with their jokes. Super sweet. And it makes me happy knowing that like there's those people out there in the world too, to kind of balance out and counteract like the assholes that I ran into. And let me just say, like, the guy that I'm sitting here ranting about for the past fucking 45 minutes, they were nice enough people, right? Like, I didn't have any complaints about them. They tipped well. They had good conversation outside of the fact of, like, they made comments like that where they're like, I don't support business X because I don't support any business that has drag brunch. Outside of that, like, no complaints. Like, I'm sure that they were nice enough people. Maybe they even mean well too. Maybe they're just misguided. Maybe they're uninformed. Maybe they're good people, but they just don't understand. I feel like that's a lot of it too. Like, if people just took the time to understand some of these things that they claim to hate so much, maybe there'd be a little less hate in the world. I know I said I didn't want to get political. I really haven't gotten political. I hope I haven't gotten too deep or philosophical either, because again, that's not what I want this to be. But I needed to talk about that because I think it's funny in like the sense of like ironic, and like it's funny in the sense of like embrace the suck, right? Like, it's not funny, but it's so fucking absurd sometimes that you can't help but just sit there and laugh. Like the fact that there's people out there that just don't get it. They don't understand. And what sucks too though is that like they be convincing sometimes. I'm not even gonna lie. Sometimes like when you see enough people around you that subscribe to that certain ideology, whichever one, it's usually the more hateful side of things. But when you're around enough people that subscribe to that ideology and you see it enough, it can definitely have influence on you. Like, I know it definitely growing up. I'm going to be honest here. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm some, woke PC person and have been my entire life. Fuck no. Growing up, like, I was taught that it was okay to, not like gay people, to not like people of color, to, make fun of them for this, that, or the other. That's how I grew up. I'm ashamed of it. Not ashamed as necessarily as a person, but ashamed that I fell for it, and that I, for a while, subscribed at least partially to that ideology back when I was way younger. When I was young, like super young. I'm not talking like 18. I'm talking like a child, right? Like it was okay to do these things and to feel this way, right? And like that's how I grew up. And it can definitely have its influence. And even later on in life, like I remember issues with like transgender issues. that's the problem that I see with like a lot of politics and shit like that. Like I don't really claim to be a part of either any party politically. Like I just kind of like to look a la carte the stuff that I believe in, which I think is the way that you're supposed to do it. Like you just kind of pick and choose. Like I agree with this, I don't agree with that. You know, the whole like vote blue no matter who, and the whole like I don't know if the conservatives have one, but same shit. That's absurd to me. I just kind of a la carte, like pick my shit politically. I think that's the way that you should do it. Um, but like the fact, where was I going with that? Um, like the fact that like when all this transgender stuff, started kind of like coming around, and like the transgender issues were coming up a lot, and transgender bathrooms and like all this stuff like a few years ago, right? When all that stuff started coming around, like that's the point I was trying to make, is like you start hearing the loudest fucking people on the complete furthest, most extreme sides of either political party, the loudest fucking people who are the most extreme about the issue. You hear them. That's the only ones you hear. The loudest 1%, even 10% on either side, the furthest away from each other, are so loud, and they scream and they just yell over the voices of the middle 80%, right? Like the 80% are just kind of in the middle. They're just fucking chill. So I firmly believe, I think like 10% of the population is so far left that they're blind to everything, and 10% is so far right that they're blind to everything. I feel as if the good majority of folks are kind of like in the middle, and they're like, what the fuck is going on, and what the fuck do we do, right? And you hear these people on either side, this 10% on either side, and they're just fucking yelling and screaming and voicing the most extreme, absurd opinions that you've ever heard. And you hear it enough. You hear enough people saying it over and over and over again. You hear them saying it real loud, real proud. I'd be lying if I said that it didn't convince me at some point in time, as ashamed as I am to say that. There was a time when I wholeheartedly, maybe not wholeheartedly, but I believed that like being transgender was wrong, right? I don't feel that way now, and I hate that I have ever felt that way. But there was a point in time where that was like very true, where I was like, I didn't sit there and think like, oh my god, transgenders are gonna ruin the country and they're trying to get my kids, and oh my god, no. But I thought that like there was some, like people kept raising the issue of like mental health issues and stuff like that, and I'm a big advocate for mental health. I've struggled with mental health issues my whole life, so when I hear it's like these group of people, like they might have mental health issues, that kind of made me think like maybe this isn't something that somebody can just feel. Maybe this is an issue that we need to be addressing. I think as if I have since changed my mind about it. And again, I don't want to get. I keep saying this. I don't want to get political, because I don't. Because I fucking hate politics. But at the end of the day, as long as you're not trying to fuck kids, like do whatever you want, right? Like I've always tried to subscribe to the philosophy that's like, as long as what you're doing is not hurting yourself, in a way, like, and by that I mean like harming yourself physically or even mentally, suicide, things like that. I think that as long as you're not harming yourself or others, do whatever the fuck you want, right? And I don't think that being gay harms others. I don't think that being transgender harms others. I think you're good on those notes. I don't think that being a straight ally harms others. And there's probably going to be a lot of people who disagree with me on that, but at the same time, that's how I feel. Like I said earlier, like you look at a lot of the religious text, the kind of overall value is the same. Just don't be a dick, right? I think that applies to just every aspect of life. Just don't be a dick. Like I said, as long as you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting somebody else, then do whatever the fuck you want, right? And let other people do whatever the fuck they want. Because at the end of the day, it's got nothing to do with you, right? If that person over there wants to go and be in a same-sex couple, guess what? You don't gotta join them. Being around them is not gonna make you want to suck dick. I think you're all right. So, that same business that I mentioned earlier, amidst all of the hate and everything that they got from all over the place, in the midst of all of that, they, with an absolute fucking baller move, decided to release merch. And merch was t-shirts, black t-shirts, had their logo on the back, and on the front it just said, "Be kind." That's all it said. It was just "Be kind." And they sold those. And I don't think I've ever seen a business post something about merch and then that quickly post sold out. So quickly, like in succession. I mean, they or I don't know how many they got made. I think they did more runs on them. They sold out of that too. I've also never seen a show, that drag brunch. I've never seen a show sell out that fast either. So a lot of people sit there and hate on what they did. A lot of people don't approve of it, say that they don't support them. At the end of the day, they have my support. Because even if I don't believe in, maybe I don't agree with homosexuality, maybe I don't agree with drag queens, maybe I don't agree with any of it, if I didn't agree with it, I don't want to say that I don't. Even if I didn't, I'm still gonna support a fucking business that is that fucking baller. To, in the midst of all of that, have the courage to even do something like that in this type of town, to stick with it amidst all of the backlash that they got, and then through all of it, drop fucking merch, bro. That's some fucking pimp shit right there. I don't care what anybody says. That was a baller ass move, and I'll support him for it. So that guy may not support him. Might be a whole lot of other people that will support him. That guy may not support gay couples and the LGBTQIA plus community or homosexuality. Might not support drag queens or anything like that. But fuck, for the love of God, like, be kind, right? Just be kind. Like, you don't gotta buy a ticket to the show, but just don't be a dick. That's the overall message of this show. Be kind and don't be a dick, right? Just live your life how you want to live it. Stay out of other people's fucking business. And I think we're all going to be all right. So far, with this podcast, we've talked about, I don't even remember what I talked about in the first episode. Last episode, we talked about pissing on somebody's grave. And on this show, or this episode, we talked about kind of politics and being gay and sucking dick. So I hope that you've enjoyed. If you do enjoy this type of stuff or want to hear me ramble on incoherently about anything in particular, let me know. I'd be happy to talk about random bullshit any day of the week. So I hope that you enjoy. I hope this didn't get too political. I hope it didn't offend anybody, because everything that I talked about came from the heart. All right, I mean it. I love everybody, and I hope that you love the people around you. I hope that we can all get along. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.